Eve in New York City. I was coming home from a matzo ball party, feeling sad and hopeless. I was 29 and looking for love, and this was yet another lame Jewish singles event where I didn't get to meet the one. And so I decided to stop by a Russian vodka room, a popular hangout place in Midtown, to drink away my sorrow. I sat at the bar and ordered a shot of vodka. And then I heard, "Do I know you?" I turned my head and I saw a young man smiling at me, and he said, "You look familiar. I think I know you." I smiled back and I said, "Well, you know me now." He was a Russian immigrant, just like me, a competitive swimmer turned into a programmer, like myself. And so he was built like a Greek god, broad shoulders, narrow waist, rock-hard biceps, but his voice was soft, and his eyes were so kind. I melted looking at him. And he grew up in a theatrical household. His mom was an opera singer, and his dad was an actor. He learned to be a bullshit artist from a young age. The most romantic bullshit he produced. And so every morning, my work email would pop up with, "Good morning, my sunshine." I was his sunshine, and he was my Jupiter. My Jupiter gave me flowers. My Jupiter wrote me poetry. My Jupiter would get on his knees in the middle of Manhattan and start proclaiming his love. Boy, was I in love with my Jupiter, and I just knew he was the one. I was 29 and waiting for love, as I said, and had the goal to be engaged by the age of 30. And I was getting close to my goal. I met his parents for the first time a few days after we met, and his dad said, "If you don't marry her, I'll marry her myself." And I just knew it was going to happen. I was going to get engaged by the age of 30. Our fairy tale lasted a few months, until one Saturday when my Jupiter had some errands to run in Brooklyn. And I was invited to a birthday party of a friend of mine at night. He kept calling me and telling me that he will be there, but he wasn't. It was getting late. I was all dressed and waiting for him. I called him. He told me 10 minutes more. 30 minutes later, I call again, 10 minutes more. I was annoyed. I was an hour late. I finally called and he said 10 more minutes. And then I snapped. I was like, 10 minutes? It was 10 times. I'm done. Don't even bother. Don't come. I'm going by myself. And I hung up the phone. And I went to a party by myself, being sure that an hour or two later, my Jupiter would come with flowers on his knees, but he didn't. He didn't come that night. He didn't come the next day on Sunday. And on Monday, I decided that my pride wasn't worth it and I was going to reach out myself. And so I emailed and I said, "I miss you. Let's talk." But he did not respond. And so I called and said, "I miss you. Let's talk. And he said, "Well, I miss you too." But I gave it some thought. And I decided that we need to break up. Let's cut the cord earlier than later. I'm like, break up? Over such a small thing? Why would you break up? Don't you love me? Well, I do, but I also know myself and I can't deal with emotional outbursts. I was devastated. I begged, I cried, but he was strong. He was a Jupiter. And so I decided that I was 29, my clock had ticked, and I decided last resort would be to go to a psychic. And so I opened Russian advertisement paper and saw an ad. Anastasia, black and white magic. I didn't particularly believe in magic, but then I was 29 and I had to be married. And so I picked up the phone and I called Anastasia, and she said, sure, we can put a spell on him. It's $300. I didn't particularly believe in spells and didn't know what it was, but I was 29. And so I went to Anastasia. She opened the door, a young blonde girl. I imagined a gypsy, old gypsy. And I thought, okay, that's a scam, but $300 for Jupiter, it's worth it. And so she gave me a few artifacts to put in my house and said every day for 30 days to pour 2 bottles of red wine under the same tree. And on the 30th day, I should hear from my love. And so I went home and I went to a liquor store across from my apartment, and I bought 60 bottles of red wine.
My God.
I went to Central Park. I found one tree that looked like my Jupiter. And every morning at 7 a.m., I was pouring 2 bottles of red wine, saying the prayer. And on the 30th day, my work email popped up with a message. I miss you much more than I could ever imagine. I couldn't believe my eyes, but it was in front of me. And so we met, we cried, we laughed. My Jupiter told me he loved me so much, he could not get over. And he proposed on his knee with a ring, and I was so happy. I was on the cloud 9. And so we decided to move in together. My small studio apartment wasn't big enough for both of us. And so I rented out my studio. I sold my furniture. I packed my suitcases, and I was waiting for my Jupiter to come. But my Jupiter never came and never called. And magic didn't work.
Woo!